Hi, this is Cheryl, and welcome to my stamping classroom. We're going to be making this card today, which is a very fallish looking card, and it's very easy to make and very elegant looking with its gold leaf on the inside. The supplies you'll need is this stamp set, Love of Leaves, and it has 5 different leaves and some very nice sentiments to it. It also comes with a set of dies that you can cut the outline of the leaf and also do some stitching. These are called stitched leaves. Ink that we'll be using is Crumb Cake for the sponging around the front sentiment, Early Espresso, and Cajun Craze. The dies that we'll be using, there'll be 4 different dies. 2 of the dies are from the Stitch So Sweetly die set, and then the other 2 dies are from the Love of Leaves die set. You will also need some linen thread and these acorn trinkets, which are very round and very heavy, and if you put this on your card you may not be able to mail it without some padding. And then also, and this is optional, I used the Stampin' Write marker to emphasize the stitching on the inside of the leaves. For your paper, you will need an envelope, a very vanilla envelope, Cajun Craze cut at 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, a piece of Early Espresso cut at 4 by 5 1/4, another piece of espresso cut at 2.5 by 4, and this is for the label on the front. You'll need the Gilded Autumn DSP, which is cut at 3 3/4 by 5, and then several pieces of Very Vanilla, a 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside, a 2.5 by 3.5 to stamp the leaf, and then a piece 2 by 2.5 for the front sentiment. And then also you will need this brushed gold, which is at 2 3.5 inches. So let's stamp. We'll be stamping the envelope, the inside, the leaf, and the front sentiment. Now the inside and the front sentiment are stamped in Early Espresso, so we'll do those first. Here is the inside sentiment, which I was just about ready to stamp, and I forgot my Stampin' Pierce mat, which is absolutely necessary for these photopolymer stamps if you want to get a good clean image. So I will stamp this toward the center and a little bit toward the top. I did not do this on this one, and it should be more toward the top. And now we're going to do the outside sentiment, and that you just stamp right in the middle of that piece of cardstock. This will be cut out with this small die, which is from the Stitch So Sweetly die set. Okay, we are done with the Early Espresso, and I'm taking out the Cajun Craze now, and we're going to stamp the leaf. Now these leaves are, the stamp is designed not to give you a solid image, it's more like a watercolor, so it'll be uneven in color, so don't freak out if it's not quite perfect, because that's the way it's supposed to look. So giving this a good press, and like I said, the mat is absolutely essential. So we're just going to set that over to dry, and then now I'm going to stamp the envelope. and I'm inking up the leaf, stamping it in the center, and then I'm pivoting it slightly to the right, stamping again, and then pivoting it to the left of the center image and stamping again, so that you get 3 different images there. Okay, so now we need to be cutting things out with the Big Shot. So I'm going to be cutting out the leaf that I stamped, the leaf on the brushed copper, and that's the brushed gold, excuse me, and then that the sentiment, and then the label out of the early espresso. I'm cutting the label first and then cutting the leaf out. So I'm cutting the leaf twice. I'm cutting it on the Very Vanilla and the brushed gold. So I'm going to take these to the Big Shot, and I will be back in just a little bit. Okay, I'm back. And now I'm going to show you how I sponged the edge of the sentiment. I just take a sponge dauber and some crumb cake and just go around the edge. Now, as you can see, the gold brushed leaf has the stitched detail on the inside. Now on this one, I'm taking the marker and I'm using the very small end and just touching those little stitches that are on the inside of the leaf. The marker has 2 ends. It has a brush end and a fine point end, and I use the fine point end. Again, that is optional. Okay, so I have cut this out, the label, and then after I cut out the label, I cut out the leaf. And that is what we're going to be using, is that outline there. You can save the leaf for another project. So the leaf that we stamped on the Very Vanilla will be going on the inside of this frame. Next, we're going to be cutting the Designer Series paper, and we're going to cut it from corner to corner on the diagonal. And this is very easy to do. You line up one corner with the groove of your cutter, and then with the other hand just swing the paper over until the other corner is also lined up in that cutting groove. And then just cut the paper. Now the tricky part is to move this 90 degrees so that you can cut the other way. So just be patient and just realign your paper. Again, lining up the 2 corners in the cutting groove of your cutter. Once that's lined up, you just slice it. So now we have 4 pieces of Designer Series paper cut on the diagonal. So we are going to get rid of the cutter and bring out the Early Espresso that's cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And we are going to place the paper on the Early Espresso exactly the way it was cut. So we're going to kind of reconstruct it and put it back together again. Now you're going to take the 2 sides and you're going to flip them. And now we're going to adhere the Designer Series paper to the Early Espresso. Now I would recommend that you just, the first time you put these on, just use a little bit of adhesive and tack it down, because as you go around you may need to readjust the paper, as you can see what I have had to do here. Okay, once it's all adhered down, we're ready to attach it to the front of our card. So go ahead and fold the card and use your bone folder to reinforce that crease so that it's a nice crisp crease. And then now we're going to attach this to the front of the card. And this layers quite nicely on the front. And next, what we're going to be doing is attaching that Early Espresso frame to the card. And because it needs to be adjusted, I'm going to be using my multi-purpose liquid glue so I can move the frame slightly to make sure that it's lined up correctly. Just using a little bit of glue around the edges. A little bit of that glue goes a long way. Okay, and I'm just carefully putting it on the front of the card. And you might have to hold it down for a few seconds in order for it to hold. Okay, once that's attached, then I'm going to put the leaf on, and I'm going to put the leaf on with dimensionals. And I'm going to line that up the best I can right in the frame there. Now I'm going to take the sentiment and add that on to dimensionals as well. The final thing for the front of the card is to put the bow on, which is a double bow made out of the linen thread. I've already added the little acorn trinket to it, and we are going to add this on with glue dots, and I'm putting two glue dots on because that trinket is pretty heavy. So I'm just going to press that on there. Okay, so the front of the card is complete. So let's work on the inside of the card. We're taking the stamped inside, and we are just going to glue this brushed gold leaf and place it on the inside. Now, if the stem will hang over a little bit, and you just need to trim that. So once that is attached, then we will insert the inside into the card. And just use some liquid glue. And there you have it. The card is complete with your envelope, and it's ready to be sent to someone whom you are thinking of. Here's a sneak peek at card number 3. Thanks for watching.